Oi, I'm Mitty.
I'm not fucking Martha Stewart. I'm a genius. Fucking medieval peasant.
You're watching Mitty's Madness.
Oh, no!
Where I do whatever the fuck I want.
Fuck the ATS. Get drunk with your neighbors and barbecue.
Science, yes?
And fuck this shit up. Why do I have so many goddamn limits? This is a bayonet from a most in the gun.
Grab a fucking beer.
I like to drink.
Hello!
Buckle up.
The Eliminator 3000.
The king of flavor.
Whoa. One entire bottle of tequila.
You wanna give it a fucking D69 can? Look at this big fuck.
Chemical X.
Oh, see, an elixir of life, bro!
Big fucking dream on.
We are making some fried fucking rice.
They're fucking endangered cunts.
And all this Everclear. That's the good stuff.
I got distracted and then drunk. That's money, dude. Good evening, you fucking degenerates. And welcome to the Empire of Dirt. And today we're doing something different as far as the channel goes, but some of y'all might not be aware, I'm a pretty handy guy. These components are from a water fountain my parents had in the house when I was a little kid and fell apart over the years. I've decided to fix it up, make it good again. So it's a copper base, and these two pieces of, I don't know what they are, slate, shale. I'm not a fucking geologist. One of you rock nerds tell me what it looks like. But the idea was, right, so it would sit on the bottom, of course, but there was a structure of copper pipe that these hung down from, kind of from copper straps. And the water would trickle out and come down these, and there were some rocks in here. Some of these seashells are going to go in there. Now, there's a good bit of corrosion down here. I don't think it's really eaten through yet. What I'm going to do is sand out the inside. I want to keep the patina that's formed on the outside the way it is. But the inside I'm going to sand out, and I'm going to spray some Plastidip down in there to prevent corrosion happening in the future. And Plastidip, the reason I'm using that is it's going to be good and watertight. If in the future, I give this back to somebody else in the family, or it doesn't end up holding up, I can just peel it out without really any fuss. Flex Seal, it's a pain in the ass to remove. I don't want to paint it because that's a pain in the ass to remove. I'm just gonna use Plastidip. So the first thing, there's the old pipe structure bases were down in here, and I guess they were siliconed in. So I'm gonna get all that silicone out, and then I'm gonna sand it up in here, and then I've got some fittings and copper pipe to make the new structure, and I'm gonna solder it in with plumbing solder. That'll be the way she goes. So let's get to it. So I've just got a knife here going at these old crusty bits of silicone. I'm using the back side of the knife, even though it's a really good quality knife. High strength steel. I'm not too worried about the edge. I can just sharpen it. But I used to make knives. I used to do some blacksmithing. Got into it just watching YouTube and guys blacksmithing, and I want to try that out. I don't do it anymore. Blacksmithing is an expensive hobby, and that was before I moved away. So parents didn't really use the backyard, so wasn't any problem. But now I rent. Landlords don't get too excited about you having and basically the forge, a propane forge is an open air furnace that gets like, how hot do those go? What, 2,000 degrees, something like that? Maybe less, maybe more. I don't remember exactly. Don't kill me if I can't remember the melting point, smithing temperatures of steel. It's been a few years. Anyways, it feels like all that gunk is out of there. So I'm just gonna give this just a preliminary wash and wipe down with some acetone to see how much of that corrosion I can lift out of there and how much of it's going to really require elbow grease and sanding. Because, you know, work smarter, not harder.
Presenting the cold, refreshing mountains of...
I should probably be wearing gloves, but I don't have any waterproof gloves that will not get eaten by acetone. So it's whatever. It's not going to kill me. Accelerant soaked rag. Don't just toss this anywhere. I've got a little paint bucket. Throw it, toss it in. Let the acetone evaporate out of it. Oh yeah, that won't take too long. You know, I just sat there and said, work smarter, not harder. What was I thinking? I'm not going to be able to get to every little nook and cranny in there due to the confined space, but this will help me power through a lot of it a lot faster. Now, as a guy who has done a lot of handy shit at home and has worked at a fab shop, metal fab shop, I can tell you there are a few things in a shop I am more terrified of than a wire wheel, because they throw those little strands of metal wire all over the place. So make sure you've got your safety squints engaged.
What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, that'll do it. Okay, I got all the rust out. Well, oxide. I guess I can show it to you. As good as I'm gonna get it. It's real hard to get up into these tight corners in this little confined space. Then I wiped it down on the inside 3 times. Get a good scrubbing with acetone to get any oils out and dust residue. I'm gonna start working on the one part of the pipe stand structure because I need to solder it into the base before I can do the plastic dip. I've got these little fittings that will go on to the end of my copper pipe right here. They just fit on there. And so what I need to do is solder them down in there to have the pipe stand come out and into there. So if I ever need to move this thing or take it apart again, that's just a friction fit, and I'll be able to lift the pipe stand out of the structure and move it. Now, to do that, I need a good base to put these on to make it easier to do the work. And there weren't any little tiny flat sheets of copper there. So what I'm going to do is cut a section of this pipe out and then slit it down the middle and flatten it out. And that'll make a good, nice, flat flange to then solder these onto, and then solder that assembly down into the fountain structure. So, you guys may remember this vise from the Limoncello episode, part of the Lemonator 3000. It's my favorite vise. Let's take a measurement. These are 3/4 of an inch wide on the outside. I'll cut 2 1.5 inch pieces out of this, then slit them down the middle and flatten them out. So we'll make a cut at 1.5 inches and then another at 3 inches. About like that. Now I'm just gonna sand these down as well so that the solder and then the Plastidip just grips well to them. That's why I didn't take the inside of the fountain up to a higher grit, because I'm going to be Plastidipping it, and while yes, peelable, like I said, removable, I don't want it to just fall off from the walls and such. I only want it to come out if I'm trying to get it to come out. Okay. I'm going to get these price tags scraped off, and then I'm just going to solder one of these onto here for now, because I need to see if having this part already soldered on and then soldering the rest of this into the main housing is going to work, or if I go ahead and put this on and then go to solder this on, will this stuff just melt and will this just start sliding around? So just make one for now and see how that works out. And I'm just using the back of the knife so I don't send the blade into my hand or body if it slips off. What am I doing? Work smarter, not harder.
Oh, fire! Yeah.
Look at that! I'm a genius. Now that's going to be really hot. There we go. Glass of water. Very hot thing. No longer very hot thing. Ha! Speaking of the next problem that we're going to solve with fire.
Fire!
Model number 3. If you can't solve it with fire, solve it with a knife. There we go. So this is plumbing solder. Now I've done many things, many blue collar jobs, but I've never been a plumber. So it's my first time doing this, but I've done electrical soldering before. Can't be too hard.
Whoa, whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
Oh, missed. Okay. Let's try it from a more steep angle. Maybe my flame's too close. This is more difficult than it seems. There we go, that bead stuck. So it's so hot that the solder on here is still a little molten. Now, this doesn't need to be a bead all the way around. It doesn't need to be watertight. It just needs to hold this fitting in place.
Fire? Do you remember when I put an M80 in Mr. Anderson's mailbox and it started a big fire?
This is harder than it looks. There's a plumber here. Tell us how you do it. You know what I'm going to do?
Remember when I found my first lighter and it was like fire?
Drop some on the inside.
Whoa! Fire! Yeah. You kick. Yeah.
That is definitely a skill. Plumbing soldering. I'm sure there's somebody who can tell me I'm doing something wrong. Okay. Clamped in the vise like this. Maybe this orientation will help. Oh yeah, there we go. There's a solid bead. It's going everywhere except where I want it. I've done a lot of welding, and welding is not this hard. Although I've never done gas-based welding. Welding, it's a lot easier to get the bead to go where you want it. Thinking maybe the base plate isn't hot enough. Okay, that's stuck. Okay, 3 good beads. That should hopefully stay put. And okay, so it's still kind of molten. Let's just trip a little. I go dunk this in some water, properly cool it off. All right, that's cooled off. I'm gonna leave all this extra crap on there for when I go to solder it into the base. Maybe it'll help me pull down and get it really in there. Checking where I wanted to put these versus the measurement from these, right? So these two create a width and the structure's got to be right over it and go around the outside edge. The 2 old positions is what I'm going to have to use. I was hoping I wasn't going to have to do that because there is old solder here from where the old pipes were, and that's a pretty tight space, and grinding that down flat is going to be a little bit dangerous, a little bit of a pain in the ass. So I was hoping I'd be able to put them right off to the side where everything's nice and flat, but no. Also, there's the fact of grinding things like aluminum and copper, which is a pain in the ass. Because they're not like steel, right? You grind steel and it flakes off. You grind things like aluminum and copper, they don't really flake off. The metal's so soft, it gets gummy.
What are you talking about?
And gums up your abrasives. But then I remembered I don't know if you can read that. This is an aluminum and non-ferrous metal flap disc grinding wheel. But it's a really tight spot. So I have to be extra careful when I go to grind these spots down. So here we go. There we go. That's one side. Oh yeah, safety squints are engaged, by the way. All right, there we go. That wasn't so bad. Also, as one great man who coined the term Empire Dirt once pointed out, it's fantastic that they made angle grinders have the power button from the side to right here in the handle. You can just hold down and it turns on. But this little fucking clitoris of a safety, when you've got a heavy grinder, it's just a pain in the ass. If it was a safety detent like here, you had to press in extra or press and slide over, even that. With this, fuck that. Anyways. Oh yeah, and I've got these 2 steel bars to get the bottom lifted up off the wooden top of my workbench. And then we're gonna go as far over as we can. That should be pretty good. Yeah. Let's just center up this unit. So we're at 23 across. We want center to be at 11.5. So we will now attempt to get that soldered in there. I'm going to heat up the base first. So it's going to take a lot more heat to get that area properly hot. And now I've got to recenter it. Man, I'm off my game. No, that's right on the money. Maybe I'm not so much off my game. There's one corner. Oh, there we go.
Yes, fire. Tell me what to do, and I will obey. Yes.
Fuck. Now that did knock it off center. It just needs a little scotch. Well, so right now we got 155 all the way across. Center would be 127 and a half. And right now our center is at somewhere between 126, 127. So instead of remelting that, trying to move it around, it becoming a mess, I'll just use that measurement on the other end. I can go ahead and make up that other mount plate. Maybe that one will come out a little better. And then put it in the other side. Stand by. Okay, I've rigged up this little thing to keep this guy level as far as tilting this way on this little plate. And we'll see if we can get a better job of it. I also sanded the coupling this time on that end. Hopefully solder will stick a little better, and I'm hoping the torch flame doesn't just push that off to Narnia. That's just water sizzling from me cooling things off earlier.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Look at that! We do have a puddle on this side, but not nearly as bad as last time. That's a much cleaner seam this time. Marked improvement. So let's try and get just one more bead onto it. It may also be a function that this vise is a metal base, which is going to absorb a lot of the heat that I'm trying to pump into the base plate. There's plenty going up there. So if I get the part that I want to be the hottest just barely off the edge. Oh yeah. Now, I won't be getting hired as a plumber doing this kind of work anytime soon, but for my purposes, that will fucking do. Just give it a little scotch back into the middle and just give it a little, oh yeah, just to set the solder. Did everybody remember that measurement I mentioned earlier? Yeah, I thought so. Somewhere between 126 and 127. That's actually fairly straight. I'm going to go with door number 1. And take that centering measurement. And it was from 100. So something that's difficult to mark center on, like a circumference, like what I'm doing right now. You guys can't really see it, but this ruler makes a reflection on the edge of the shiny pipe as I bring it really close in the shape of a parabola. And so if I get the very tip bottom of that parabola to the measurement I want, that's the center, which is about there. And what I can do is, holding that in place, take a measurement. So we're at 16, 17, 18 from that edge here.
One eternity later.
Well, everybody, I'm an idiot. I accidentally deleted the rest of the footage from today. Apologies for that. So I'll just go over the rest of what I did. I So we got the measurements figured out, and then I got the other fitting soldered in. What I fucking predicted at the start when I only made one of the mount pieces to begin with, because I didn't know if trying to solder the whole assembly in, there'd be too much heat, things would come loose. Yeah, that happened with the other one.
Not the kind of person to say I told her so, but you know what? I told her so. I told her so.
So that was a whole mess, but got that figured out and back together and got everything where it should be. Furthermore, realized, so this right here is the seam. This is made by taking a sheet of copper and folding it up into a box shape. And there's 4 seams. The rest of them are good, but all the heat from fixing the one that came loose caused the solder in this seam to spill out. And so it wasn't watertight anymore, and this had popped up a little bit. So I weighed that back down, soldered that back together. It is watertight. I tested it by dunking it in a water tank and then holding it up to see if anything was going to come out. Any water, which did not happen. And then I fixed some denting and warping just by smacking it with a hammer a little bit carefully. That's just some copper dust that just fell in. Okay. So then I taped up the outside and a rim along the inside. And then sprayed in the Plastidip. And as you can see, that's curing. That takes a full day to cure. So that's all I'm doing for today on this project. We'll come back at it tomorrow. And again, apologies. I accidentally deleted that footage. Yeah. Nobody's as disappointed as I am. So that's where we're at. Anyways, thanks for watching. And keep an eye out for part 2 coming out soon. Catch you on the flip side.
Yeah,